What's up, guys? It's Ryan with the Packers Hub. Today we're going to be going over the 2017 offseason overview for the Green Bay Packers. We're going to be going over losses, who we re-signed, additions, and potential first-round targets at positions of need. So, looking at the losses, we lost TJ Lane, JC Tretter, Eddie Lacy, Micah Hyde, Jared Cook, Dayton Jones, and Julius Peppers. Now, out of those guys, I expected to lose JC, Dayton, and Julius. Although I really would have liked to see Dayton and Julius come back. Dayton had one of the highest pass rushing productivity grades from Pro Football Focus on the Packers roster. And Julius Peppers is a 7-sack-a-year guy. He's going to get you at least 7 sacks, and he's going to make big plays. He disappears in stretches, but he makes big plays, and he gets at least 7 sacks a year. Definitely a guy that you want on the outside. He only got a 1-year, $4.5 million deal from the Panthers. Definitely think a guy we should have brought back. Biggest surprise on who left was Jared Cook. If there was one guy we all thought was going to be back, it was Jared Cook. And Aaron Rodgers rallied for him. And I don't know, man. I really would have liked to see Jared back. But, you know, what happens, happens. We got to deal with it. I think we dealt with it pretty well. But Jared Cook, definitely a guy I would have liked to see in green and gold this season. Micah Hyde also. Now, Micah was terrible earlier in the year. He gave up 120 quarterback rating when thrown his way in the first half of the season. But looking at the second half of the season, he was undoubtedly the best player in the secondary. He was the only player that was halfway decent in the secondary. And you saw it against the Cowboys. He was a big play waiting to happen. When he jumped that screen, that wide receiver screen, he went right through Dez Bryant. Now, Dez Bryant is a big wide receiver. He went right through him and intercepted the football. So we'll miss Micah, but, you know, 5 years, $30 million, that's a little rich for the Packers' blood, considering how he gave up 120 quarterback rating earlier in the season. And then looking at Eddie Lacy, Eddie Lacy definitely, I really would have liked to see him back in green and gold, but, you know, he still is struggling with weight issues, being at 267 now. Even last year, you know, he had his weight issues. But here's the thing with Eddie, he's consistent. 4.1 yards per carry last year, even when he was as heavy as he was, and this year he was averaging 4.7. He was Rookie of the Year his rookie year, and he had a solid year after his rookie year. This guy's going to get you at least 1,000 yards and average 4 yards a carry. I really would have liked to see him back in green and gold. The only running back that had higher than him his year coming out was Jonathan Franklin, and the Packers also drafted him. But, you know, he had that career-ending neck injury that year, which was really unfortunate. I wish it didn't happen, but going back to Eddie Lacy, I really wish we brought him back. Now, the biggest loss that we had in terms of free agents was TJ Lane. And you had all these Packers beat writers and ESPN guys come out and say, oh, well, the Packers weren't going to pay TJ Lane that much. It's like, why not? We've got the cap space. We can give him $19 million guaranteed like he got from Detroit. And he wasn't looking for us to match. He just wanted it to be close. But it was such a big gap from where we were and where they were that it only made sense for him to go to Detroit. Really would have liked to see TJ back, because now we go from a position of strength to now a huge weakness. Who's going to fill that? Don Turnstile Barclay? I think not. And that's a good segue into our re-signed players. We got Nick Perry, Jaron Elliott, Kristen Michael, and Donnie Turnstile Barclay. Don't know why we keep bringing this guy back. He's been awful for the past 2 years. Now, he was good like 3 or 4 years ago, and he was our 6th offensive lineman. Whenever someone went down, he came in and did a great job. But then he tore his ACL in training camp a few years back, and ever since, I think he's just super conscious about that ACL still. He maybe tries to protect it a little too much when he's playing. But yeah, he's just been awful for the past 2 years. Don't know why we keep bringing him back. But then you look at Nick Perry. He was my favorite edge rusher coming out of his class. Now, even when he was dealing with all of his injuries earlier in his career, you still saw the flashes. You still saw the run stop ability and the pass rush ability. And then this past year, he just put it all together. 11 sacks, a bunch of tackles for a loss. He was one of the highest graded edge rushers in Pro Football Focus and NFL 1000 for Bleacher Report. I'm glad we resigned him. It looks like a lot of money, but the guaranteed money isn't that high. In fact, it's less than Clay's. So pretty good team-friendly deal, and I'm glad we brought back Nick Perry. He's going to be good for us. Also, Jamron Elliott, I'm glad we brought him back because now he has more opportunities to show what he can do now that Dayton and Julius are gone. Dayton, J-Ron, whenever he comes in, you know, it's just, again, a big play waiting to happen. Last year, or 2 years ago in 2015, when we played the Seahawks, he had that interception off the screen pass from Russell Wilson, and he also had that tomahawk strip from Fred Jackson to seal the Packers' win. So it seems like whenever J-Ron's on the field, he makes a big play, and I think all Packer fans have been clamoring for him to get some more playing time. So I'm glad that finally it looks like this year he's going to get that opportunity. Kristen Michael, exciting back. That's the first thing that you see with him. I mean, you don't really know what he's going to do or where he's going to go, but it's like a balloon letting the air out of it. I mean, he's just going to go 100 miles an hour in every which direction. It's just exciting to watch. And hopefully now that he has a full offseason in our program, he's going to pick everything up and he can be something decent as a backup to Ty Montgomery. So then we look at additions, and we got Marty Martellus Bennett, Lance Kendricks, Devon House, and Ricky Jean-Francois. Now, looking at Marty, I love this signing. He's going to be great for us. He's better than Jared Cook. Now, Jared Cook was a beast for us, but Martellus Bennett can be better because really good route runner, great hands, just definition of consistency over his entire career. You look back just a few years ago when he was with Chicago, and one season he had like 90 receptions and 1,000 yards and a bunch of touchdowns. I mean, if we can get somewhere close to that kind of production, which with looking at the options on our offense, with Ty Montgomery coming out of the backfield and Jordy and Randall and Devontae and now Geronimo, I mean, spreading the ball around is going to be hard. And if Martellus Bennett can put up even close to what he did a couple years in Chicago, and even last year in New England, he had a great season. So if he can do any of that, I mean, it'll be a great signing for us. And looking at Lance Kendricks, I think that's one of the more underplayed moves in the entire offseason for us because he is a blazer. You look at his 40 time the other few years ago, like 6 or 7 years ago when he was in the combine, he ran a 4.57, and Jared Cook ran a 4.5. And what was the big thing when we signed Jared Cook? Oh, he's fast, and he's got all this ability, but he's just never had a great quarterback to throw to him. He comes to Green Bay and has a great quarterback to throw to him. He's a complete beast. Now we look at Lance Kendricks. He's got all this ability. He's guy who jumps out of the gym, runs as fast as any other tight end, and he's been playing with horrible quarterbacks his entire career. Now he's got Aaron Rodgers. What's going to happen? I think great things. So now we look at Devon House, and I'm glad we brought this guy back. He's going to be a veteran presence in a young secondary room. Plays press man coverage as good as anybody in the league. Fits our scheme perfectly. Solid signing. I'm glad to have him back. Looking at Ricky Jean-Francois, not the best 3-4 D end in the league, but you look at his Pro Football Focus grades, and he is the definition of consistency. He's going to be great in run stops, but he's not going to get you a whole lot in pass rush productivity. But we don't really need that. We just need a big body on the D-line, and he does that great. Now talking about potential first-round draft picks to fill our needs. Looking at cornerback, which I'm not sure is that big of a need, and that's a conversation for another time. But looking at cornerback, one of the most thought of positions that we need to fill right away in the draft, I look right at Garyon Conley. A big, physical, fast corner, plays excellent man-to-man coverage. That's all they do at Ohio State. You see Marshawn Lattimore, he's going to go top 10, and he's also a great man-to-man corner. He's not going to be there for Green Bay, though. But Garyon Conley, excellent ball skills, does not get beat. My player comparison for him is Josh Norman. I mean, he can be exactly that, just faster. Maybe not right now, but in a couple of years. And Joe Witt, you know, he's going to take care of Garyon Conley, and he's going to make him a great corner. You see what he's done with Tramon Williams and Devon House and Sam Shields and, you know, all these guys that are getting big contracts now. So, yeah, I think Garyon Conley would be perfect man-to-man guy in our defense. He's good at press man. Doesn't really do a whole lot of zone, but we don't need him to do that. So, and then looking at Chidobe Awuzie, I think he would be a great replacement for Micah Hyde because Chidobe Awuzie, he's a great blitzer. I think he had like 8 sacks throughout his career at Colorado. And, you know, he's fast, athletic, great cover guy. I don't think he's an outside guy, but I think he's an inside guy, like a nickel. And you look at the Packers defense, I mean, we usually play nickel or sub packages 70% of the time. We're only in our base 30% of the time, so usually we're going to have a nickel on the field. So he's a starter, definitely a round 1 caliber player. I also like his teammate Akella Witherspoon, although I would not take him in the first, maybe a second or third round kind of guy. But, you know, he's more of an outside guy at 6'3", 200 pounds, can run like the wind. I mean, he'd be something we looked at later in the draft. So then you want to talk about explosive and fast. Adoree Jackson's your guy. I mean, he's Devin Hester returning the football. He's got a lot of raw skills at corner. Gave up like 6 or 7 touchdowns this year, which is pretty concerning. But again, Joe Witt is a magic man when it comes to corners. He can turn Adoree Jackson into a premier guy. He's got all the skills. And fun fact, Adoree Jackson has never had a full offseason of football. During spring practice, when all of his teammates are practicing, learning the playbook, getting better with their techniques, Adoree Jackson is running track. He actually tried out for the Olympics. So you got this guy with all this potential, all this athleticism, and a guy who can return the ball like Devin Hester. I mean, I think that's one of the things that the Packers need on their team is a guy that can set the offense up with good field position. We haven't really had that guy. I mean, Micah Hyde was decent at that, but Adoree Jackson is a complete upgrade at kick return, punt return, and I think he could really develop into something nice as a corner. Looking at running back, I know a lot of Packers fans don't want to address this in the first round, but I mean, if Christian McCaffrey's there, man. If Christian McCaffrey's there, he's got to be the pick. Some people don't like how he fits with Ty Montgomery because they're kind of the same player, but it's like, why is that a bad thing? Because Christian McCaffrey runs routes like a wide receiver. He has great vision, hits the hole hard, fast. I mean, the guy's a complete package. I mean, he's not that powerful, but he's just a big play waiting to happen. Another guy I kind of look at too is Dalvin Cook. I mean, he hits the hole, and his burst is elite. He goes from first gear to sixth gear like that. I mean, he's gone as soon as he hits the hole. And he kind of let people down at the combine when he ran 4.51. Thought he was more of a 4.39 guy or low 4.4 guy. But the thing about Dalvin, why you think he's so fast, is because his burst is so elite. He goes from 0 to 100 so fast that looks like he's faster than he is. It's just that his burst is so elite, it makes him look faster. But I mean, 4.5 is enough speed to take the top off the defense. But my favorite running back in this class, and I know he has off the field issues, it's Joe Mixon. We brought him in for a pre-draft visit. We were at his pro day. I think there's some definite interest. We also have Jerry Montgomery, I believe it is. Our assistant D-line coach was a coach at Oklahoma while Joe Mixon was there. He's probably vouching for him, saying that he's a good guy and everything. So I think that's an interesting thing to watch play out. But Joe Mixon, I mean, I don't want to say Le'Veon Bell, but I'm going to say Le'Veon Bell because that's the kind of patience this guy has. You look at Christian Michael. He's sporadic. He'll bounce it outside, maybe get like 3 or 4 yards if there's nothing in the middle. Joe Mixon waits for something to develop in the middle, and then he hits the hole, and he hits it hard, and he gets 10 or 11 yards, whereas Christian Michael would have bounced it outside and gotten 3 or 4. Don't get me wrong, Joe Mixon bounces it outside when it's opportune for him to do so. Joe Mixon is a top 10 talent in this draft all day long if it weren't for the off-the-field issues. Looking at a replacement for TJ Lane, I like Forrest Lamp. Forrest Lamp is consensus best guard. He played tackle in college, but he's compared to Zach Martin on the Cowboys, perennial all-pro, Pro Bowl selection kind of guy. If we can get that out of Forrest Lamp, maybe losing TJ Lane isn't such a bad thing. Looking at Dan Feeney from Indiana, allowed 1 sack in 3 years starting at guard for them. That's incredible. Mauler in the run game, big guy. I would really like if we got him. And also Cam Robinson, the tackle from Alabama. Now, he's got decent feet for a tackle, but he's got elite feet for a guard. And he's a mauler in the run game. I would love him. And I listened to Vach Lombardi and watch his film breakdowns. Go check him out and watch his tape on Cam Robinson. He does a perfect job explaining how Cam Robinson can be a decent tackle, but a Pro Bowl kind of guard. So I think that's something to watch for at the end of round 1. And looking at edge players, edge rushers, you hear all the time about TJ Watt. He's in every single mock draft. Everybody wants him to go to the Packers. And while I like TJ Watt, picking him at 29 is a little too rich for my blood. I think that he can be a Clay kind of guy. He put up great numbers at the Combine. Very athletic, big, has only played 18 games at outside linebacker. But maybe if we trade back into the second round, like 15 picks or so, I would love to pick him there. But at 29, I think there will probably be better players on the board, like Takk McKinley. You look at Takk McKinley, and he's super raw, but he's got all the tools. Athletic freak. You coach him up, teach him some techniques. Sometimes he goes into a rush without really knowing like what he's going to do. You can kind of see that on film. But you teach him moves and counter moves and all this stuff. I think he could really develop into an elite kind of Pro Bowl kind of rusher. But the number 1 guy on my board in terms of edge rushers is Derek Barnett. I mean, Vach Lombardi likes to talk about ass whoop. This guy's got ass whoop. He will whoop your ass, the tackle's ass, all day long on the offensive line. He's going to get tackles for losses. He's going to put consistent pressure on the quarterback. He set the all-time record for sacks at Tennessee. This guy is a complete badass, and I would love to have him on the Packers. Him and Nick Perry, that would go all day long. So that's about it, guys. Check out the Packers Hub. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you guys very much.